My name's Julian Bowery. I'm the Regional Manager for Innovate UK, the nation's innovation agency for this part of the world. I'm very proud also to have been involved in the Leicester Innovation Festival, the awards, the Innovation Board. So I'm delighted to be here today to lead this panel. We'll see how it goes. I've got a list of questions that were submitted online. What I might do is we might do some of these questions and then see if there are questions from the audience, because if you do have questions, it feels a bit unfair for you to have to sit and listen to questions that we've already been submitted. We'll do 2 or 3. The other thing is we have a mic. George has given me a mic. Either George or I reserve the right to physically remove this from you if we think you're hogging it too much, but I'm sure you won't, and hopefully this works. So first off, maybe if you could just pass the mic down and just introduce yourselves briefly to the audience. Thank you.
Everyone. My name's Jake Carrier. I'm the Managing Director and founder of Food Attraction. We're the manufacturers of the Jake and Lanes range of snack foods.
Morning, everyone. My name's James Wiley. I'm a manufacturing specialist and co-founder of the consultancy Serious Transformation, who support SMEs in improving their processes, particularly within the manufacturing sector.
I'm Stephen Sleeth. I'm a mechanical engineer for Serious Transformation alongside James, also a manufacturing specialist.
Morning, everyone. A bit of a Westlife band going here, sitting on the thing. So as the 4th member of the band, don't boo me. I'm an insolvency practitioner, so I deal with businesses in challenge and sometimes failing businesses. I'm also a consultant for growth businesses. And then the most positive part is that I am on the business board. I'm the chair of the business board for the LAP.
Hi everybody, I'm Jennifer Thomas. I'm the Development Manager at the FSB, not that one, the Federation of Small Businesses for Leicestershire, Northamptonshire and Rutland, and representing 4,500 small business owners within those 3 counties who are our members.
Super, thank you. So let's start. With all interviews, the first question is meant to be the easy question rather than the trick question. So maybe if you could just all say, how has your business benefited from innovation? And that's, I know some of you are offering consultancy or advisory services, so you might want to reflect on both your own business experience, but also what it feels like when you're working with other companies as well. So how has your business benefited from innovation? Jay?
So being in food manufacturing, we've had an incredible amount of challenges. We've had obviously COVID, we've had Brexit, we've had labour crisis, we've had commodity increases. So for us, innovation has been the absolute lifeblood of business. We've constantly been innovating the type of products. We launched a range of innovative snacks that have helped us get through COVID. But we've just constantly been innovating, introducing new items, which has helped then feed the major team within the business, the management team, because they've seen that growth strategy actually being delivered now. Innovation for us has been the lifeblood.
So your chance for promotion, what's your best-selling, innovative new snack?
Loads of stuff. So we've just worked with University of Leicester on a KTP, a knowledge transfer partnership.
Oh, right.
And we have a product called a burrito, which I'm sure everyone knows. But normally, traditionally, when burritos are in stores, they have a 3 or 4 day shelf life, which means that the retailers are having to throw away food when it hits that shelf life. So we engaged with University of Leicester, great program, brought some students in, a young lady called Frances, who came in, and what they were able to do is limit water migration throughout the product. Water migration.
So you don't want a soggy burrito, do
Well,
you?
it wasn't that. That's what causes the reduced shelf life.
Right.
So we worked with them on creating barriers, went through quite a few different trials, and we've managed now to push that shelf life for a fresh product with all natural ingredients to about 14 days now. And you get an eat on that product that is fantastic. That's now across most supermarkets. It's on airlines, railways, and carried on continuing the business. And there are other innovative programs that we're working on within the business We've developed bread now that when you microwave it, doesn't go chewy, rubbery or hard, it stays soft all the way through. So yeah.
Brilliant, great. And Cameron, who's a colleague of mine, Cameron over there, if you want to talk about KTPs, Cameron's your man to talk to. Brilliant, thank you, James.
So our consultancy is obviously based around the concept of innovation. We use Lean Six Sigma principles to encourage businesses to think differently about how they do things. So we currently have a client who's working in the glass processing industry. They recognised that they had a number of challenges where their processes could be improved and weren't as good as they could be. Also, on top of that, since we've been working with them, obviously the energy crisis has kicked in, and there's a greater need for them to be more focused in terms of their throughput and productivity through their main plant, which has massive energy consumption. So we've been using simple process improvement techniques and implemented. One example would be a handover that we've improved between the shifts. This is a new process to improve communication between their shifts, capture ideas, set targets. They're very simple, incremental process improvements that we're making, but they are small, innovative methods that are encouraging the business to have more standards, etc.
Great, thanks. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, like James says, I think simplicity is the key, especially touching back on the energy costs at the moment. They've had to be quite innovative with the way they work around their shift patterns. So we've gone through quite a few exercises to sort of optimise their cost savings and reduce significantly. I mean, they were talking 4.5 times their energy cost usage, whereas now it's down to about 2.5, which is still excessive, but it's those simple changes, and I think understanding within those boundaries, those simple changes, that's really helps.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point. It's one of the problems that, working for the agency I do is innovation comes across as the stuff you do in places like this, where actually I quite agree. We've got to continue to have fund R&D, but a lot of innovation is coming from people saying, I need to reduce my energy costs. I need to get more efficient and stop wasting things. So I think innovation, to me, it can be, I've got something world-breaking created, and it's going to change the world, or it can be something like, I'm going to reduce my energy costs by 50% by being clever.
Yeah, definitely, especially with SMEs. I think, like you say, the client that we're working with at the moment, their total profit would have been taken up by just the energy cost alone without anything else. So,
yeah, and I'm sure there are a lot of companies that are in that position right now, which probably is some of the time why they come to see you, Sonia.
Unfortunately, yes. So working with clients in challenging circumstances doesn't provide me the luxury of many options. So we have to get quite creative, and a lot of the time we don't have the resources to get extra resources. So what happens in times of challenges is people tend to not have the budget to implement cost-saving strategies at that point. The irony is that you can't afford to cost cut at that point. So very much when I went into my own business and became a micro business myself, I tried to take forward the strategy of starting earlier rather than waiting, and making sure that everything you want to do later on, you're making time and trying to be innovative right from the start and try and get processes in place. And it really is the small things, the micro innovation that makes a big difference, because the cumulative compound effect is a huge impact. And if I spoke to all the businesses the failures and all the ones that I speak that are on a growth trajectory, the common theme is often they wish they'd done it sooner. The ones that failed always wish that they'd taken those steps because they didn't see the change. The small changes either weren't exciting or they didn't think it would be a game changer. So therefore doing small incremental changes and seeing it was very frustrating for them, that they realised actually they really could have, they didn't need lots of money, they didn't need to do huge things, and sometimes it's just a little bit too late. But if we can get that mindset earlier for people, it is an investment. It's a strategy that should be from the start. And if we could change that mindset, I think it would change a very big part of a lot of the problems that we face.
Right, thank you. Jen, you've got an overview of some of these things.
Yeah, and I think we've heard some really good examples of how product development and new to market innovation can bring some great benefits for businesses, whether that's improving the product that you've got, avoiding the problems like Jake mentioned, but also, creating that innovative kind of brand for the country that we bring up these new and exciting things. However, a big part of what FSB talks about is new to firm innovation. So one of the mantras that we kind of use in our work is working smarter, not harder. I think that's very much been alluded to, about just being smart in the way that you work, and actually saving yourself a lot of time, a lot of stress. And that's very much how we try and encourage our members to think, is don't get caught up in a rut of panic and think you've got to just do more and more and more. And that's very much the productivity, Nick mentions. People don't understand what productivity means. Essentially, it's not putting in more than you're taking out, not wasting time. And working smarter, not harder can be processes, it can be leadership and management, it can be digital technology. But that's how businesses can really benefit, I think, is just taking a look at what they're doing and where are they wasting time and how can they put their energies and their resources into the best place.
Right, thank you. Maybe keep the mic there, because the next question, and it really is central, I think, to this part of the world and to the economy generally. As we know, most of the economy consists of small businesses. It's great that we've got so many small businesses or businesses in the room today, but there are probably 30,000 businesses in Leicestershire and we've got 70 or 80 here today. That's always the challenge, isn't it? How do we engage with the wider business community in the sorts of things that are exciting us, we feel should be exciting every company, but it's very difficult to do that in times when people are saying, actually, I've got a job to do and, I can't afford to take 3 hours out of the day to come to a conference. Any reflections on almost advice to Nick and the advisory board? What should we be doing to get the message across more widely?
Yeah, I mean, we all recognise that business engagement is really difficult. No matter what you work in, you are always trying to reach out. And I think for public sector, as well as businesses themselves and organisations like the FSB and the Chamber, business engagement is difficult. So I think almost in our position, we should be asking ourselves, what engagement do we actually want? Do we want businesses to come to an event to hear about how we can help them? Or is there a better way of just helping them? They don't need to take 3 hours out and come to... It's very nice to be at an event like this. I'm sure you'll all agree. The businesses who couldn't come, is it because they weren't aware of it? Are they not looking on the LEP website? Are they not looking on social media? So it's almost just making sure that we're widening the reach of what we're doing, because otherwise we're all talking to ourselves in a closed room about how much great stuff there is. But what outreach are we doing to reach those businesses who are not in the room, either out of choice or through sheer not realizing, that you can look elsewhere? So how can we reach out to the businesses? And we've had discussions on the Innovation Festival Steering Group about actually going out to business parks, going out to businesses. And Nick mentioned earlier about advocates. And I think that's a huge opportunity, not just choosing the same old businesses who are very successful, very well known, but looking for fresh new advocates, businesses who, just quietly are getting on with it. How can we get one business, perhaps on a business park or, who has a lot of clients? And I think another thing which I really thought was very good, and I was talking to Urshad about, businesses do talk to their accountants and to their financial organisations. They take advice from them. And I was really pleased to see the event at the Barclays Eagle Labs with all of those accountants and financial partners, telling them, making them advocates, so that when they're talking to businesses, you don't want them to be talking to the people like Sonia and saying, help, what shall I do? So I was really pleased to see that. So I think there's some great work going on, and it's just making sure that we continue that and continue to work together.
Right, thank you.
Yes, I concur. No one wants to have lunch with me. No one wants to have a meeting with me. Very lonely. I'm the last on the list. I concur completely with what Jen said. I think the problem always is going to be time. You get it in big firms are no different to small companies. We are too busy doing, and that is a mindset shift, which the work we're already doing around innovation is huge on that. There's so much work being done. We had it a lot around mental health, and it's the same thing. It's getting people used to listening to hearing the same story, understanding it, and continuing the work that's already been done. But particularly of a small business owner, engaging with them, it has to be useful. It sounds obvious, but it really has to have a return. Coming to an event and listening to how to do something, or listening to a consultant tell you how to do something, is great. But most of the time, they already know what they should be doing. What we really need to be doing is enabling spaces where they can double up on their time. So if you're coming to an event, you want to leave with something tangible. You want to have worked on your business in that time, rather than being told what you then need to go. And then we all go, put that piece of paper down and crack on with daily business. And we think we'll do that next week. So whatever we can do to make very, very small changes again, but very targeted changes that they can make there and then, would be very useful, I think.
No, I think that's a good point to us. Thinking about what are the 2 or 3 takeaways from this session and all the sessions we run in the Innovation Festival. I think that's a good challenge. Thank you, Sonia.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. It's breaking it down into small bite-sized pieces that, companies, I think they get scared by big words, innovation, productivity, it encompasses quite a lot. And breaking it down into those small bite-sized chunks where they can see deliverables without, too much effort being put in. They can actually see the payback straight away. And it doesn't always have to come at a big capital cost. These small changes can make big differences, as we've seen. And I think that's, certainly to get through to SMEs, it's that's a challenge, is how to sort of get that mindset through that these things can make a difference.
Yeah. Building on that, I think it's definitely around sharing tangible examples of success, and so people can see and get a feel for, through relatively simple process of understanding your current position, where you are now in terms of productivity, where you could be in terms of being 100% productive effectively, and what are the measures that you could put in place to start bridging that gap. I think getting that message across that is fundamentally the process that you need to go through in order to understanding your full potential, but first of all, understanding where you currently are. I think people don't necessarily, or businesses don't see that is the first thing that you fundamentally need to do, is to understand that metric. We had a client in the construction industry, and one of their targets for 2023 was to improve productivity by 20%. Yet when we actually dug into it, they had no understanding of what their current productivity was. It could have been 81%. And yet there was no data to actually give an indication of what productivity was. Measuring productivity within the construction industry is quite difficult fundamentally. But they'd set this arbitrary target of 20%, yet without having any understanding of where they currently were. So by communicating at a broad level that the process begins with understanding your current productivity, I think is a good message to get across. That's the first rung on the ladder. People understand where they are now, then there's a way forward from that point. People can start implementing, or businesses can start implementing, random productivity improvements without them being related to where their current baseline. And that's the first process that we go through when we speak to a client is to understand that baseline. Where are they currently now? And that could be that reassuring step which gives companies the bravery to then commit more resource and take their head out of the business and start working on the business.
Thank you. Jake.
Thank you. So I'm a business, in business every day, in there, and I get to the office and my nose is on the grindstone, and it is all the way through to the end of the day. So if I just recount my experience, Cameron organised an event for University of Leicester. I went along to the event. He had some great speakers that were actually businesses that had used KTPs. Now, up until that point, I hadn't considered KTPs. Sat down, listened to these businesses and how it had benefited those businesses. that created a spark within me and thought, right, actually, there are a few projects that we could look at with Cameron's help. And actually, it moved so quickly that we had breakfast. We then moved into the next room, and then we actually nailed it then. And I think within a week or 2 weeks, we'd actually moved heaven and earth and got things started in there. So that was, I know it doesn't happen often in academia, I'm sorry, but he did a great job in that. Probably going to get shot now before I leave.
Just have to run around the football pitch 20 times.
There was that. There's also peer-to-peer networks. Look, if a university comes to talk to me or I sit in an environment like this, it doesn't actually mean a great deal. If I listen to a business, someone that's benefited from innovation and used innovation, suddenly that means so much. When you buy something from Amazon or eBay, you always look at the reviews first for normal people that have bought things from there to see what they've had to say about it. So that sort of thing is really, really important in there. And the other thing as well is academia needs to spend time in industry. You need to understand what our failings are. I'm a businessman. If I see an opportunity, I'll go and exploit it, or benefit from it or grow it in there. I wasn't Freudian. But sometimes I don't know where that innovation is going to come from. And actually, I need somebody to understand industry in general, understand what it's like to actually run a business, come in. And, I'm in the food industry. Somebody else could be a garment manufacturer. Actually, we all face very, very similar issues. So actually, for academia to come in and spend time with us to understand some of our issues and actually come to us with opportunities to say, actually, have you thought about this? Creates that spark. And we know that if there's an opportunity there, we'll invest in it. It's not about expenditure. It's about where you're going to get the best return for that money that you're looking to spend, unless you're talking to Sonia, of course, in which case is a different story altogether. So.
Sonia. Brilliant, thanks.